I never imagined that a storm would lead to an unexpected bond between a single mother and a CEO. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was just another Tuesday, dark clouds were swirling ominously, like a tempestuous heart ready to burst. The air was thick with dread. The weather had always been unpredictable, but today, it felt especially hostile. The sky roared, and rain hammered down like 1,000 tiny fists. I gripped the steering wheel, knuckles pale, heart racing, my daughter's laughter echoing softly in the back seat, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. Her innocent humming filled the car, oblivious to the storm brewing both in the skies and in my life. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. My phone buzzed violently in my pocket, and my stomach twisted. I glanced down, the words from my boss burning into my mind like acid. "We need to talk about your performance." I felt like drowning. The fluorescent light of the phone contrasted with the swirling night outside, a beacon of despair that I pulled into the cafe, a small refuge to escape the storm. The door creaked open, and the scent of burnt coffee wrapped around me like a familiar hug. My daughter skipped ahead, oblivious to my turmoil. But the moment I stepped inside, I froze. Across the room, lit like royalty amid the flickering lights, sat him Evan Hart, the CEO known for his ruthless decisions and chilling glare. He was larger than life, an enigma of power and mystery. People whispered about him, his golden resume, his icy heart, his eccentricities. I couldn't shake the feeling that his eyes were piercing right through me, reading my soul like an open book that I wanted to look away, but I was glued to the spot as the storm outside intensified. Thunder shook the building, rattling windows, and for a moment, all breaths were held. I thought of my shaky finances, my overdue bills, the weight on my shoulders as a single mother. I would do anything to keep my daughter safe and happy. Just then, the sky opened up, flooding the streets. The cafe felt like an island, swaying against nature's fury. Suddenly, the lights flickered and cut out, plunging us into darkness. Small gasps filled the air. My heart leaped into my throat. I could hear the frantic beating of other hearts too, the collective fear echoing in the silence. A moment later, I heard a voice, smooth and steady. It was Evan, cutting through the panic. "Stay calm. We'll get through this," he urged, confidence radiating like warmth. A shiver coursed through me. Why was he here? Why did he care? But before I could dive deeper into thoughts, the emergency lights flickered back to life, revealing chaos. People were pushing toward the exit, shoving past one another, eyes wide with terror. I grabbed my daughter's hand, squeezing it tight. The world felt heavy. I looked for Evan, but he was gone, enveloped in the crowd. Just then, the front door burst open under the weight of the storm, rain sweeping in like a cold, wet hand. In that chaotic moment, the world seemed to freeze. I felt the storm of emotions swirl within me, a sense of loss, a flicker of hope, and an inexplicable pull towards the man who had unknowingly intertwined our fates amid the chaos. This was just the beginning of something that would shake both our worlds. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The storm raged on, wind howling like a banshee outside the cafe, drowning out the distant sounds of panicked voices as people stumbled into the torrent seeking refuge. I pulled my daughter closer to me, her small frame trembling not just from the chill in the air but perhaps from sensing my own unease. I could see the worry etched across her young face, and it broke my heart. At that moment, I vowed to shield her from the tempest outside and within, while the chaos unfurled around us. I felt an inexplicable longing to find Evan again to see if he was truly as courageous as he had sounded just moments before in the darkness. But amid the surging currents of human fear and uncertainty, he was a ghost, dissipated into the ether. The table where he had sat was now occupied by frightened strangers casting anxious glances at each other, huddled and murmuring. I ached to escape, to flee from this nightmare that threatened to ensnare us. As the minutes dragged on, the storm finally began to lose its ferocity, though remnants of rain continued to trickle down, pitter-pattering against the window like small worries echoing in my mind. I needed to calm my daughter's fears, so I leaned down, whispering, "Let's play a game. How about we pretend we're on an adventure through the jungle, where we're explorers searching for treasure?" Her eyes illuminated with delight, and a glimpse of her earlier laughter returned, a treasured reminder of her innocence. Just as we engaged in our make-believe game, a waitress approached our table, her expression softening as she watched us. With a genuine smile, she produced a small plate of cookies warm and fresh, with melting chocolate chips. "These are on the house," she said softly, "for brave little adventurers." My heart warmed at her kindness. In a world filled with chaos, sometimes it was the simplest gestures that could illuminate the darkest moments. We accepted the treat, and as my daughter took a bite, her eyes brightened, and I felt our transient troubles ease, at least for that little while. But even amidst these small flickers of hope, my mind drifted back to Evan. The weight of his presence lingered in the room. Why was I grasping so tightly for this fleeting connection? He was a man of industry, a world so alien from my own. I chided myself for even considering the implications of our brief encounter. As the cafe buzzed back to life, the storm eased, but my heart raced with unanswered questions. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the front door opened again, and in marched a soaked figure, his dark silhouette framed against the brilliant flash of lightning behind him. It was Evan, his hair tousled, shirt clinging to his form, a portrait of resilience against the tempests of life. He surveyed the room, eyes seeking something until they landed on mine. A flood of emotions surged through me as our gazes locked, betrayal and relief mingling in my chest. That he approached, shaking off the rain like a fierce warrior returning from battle. "Are you two all right?" His voice was steady, reassuring amidst the lingering chaos, and I saw that this moment seemed like a lifeline thrown unceremoniously at my feet. That I nodded, finding my voice caught in my throat. But before I could respond, a loud crash echoed from outside, interrupting the moment, drawing all eyes toward the window. The atmosphere thickened with tension as we realized the storm had uprooted a nearby tree, sending it crashing down across the street, narrowly missing an oncoming car. Gasps erupted around us, and my heart sank. That my daughter clutched my hand tightly, her brows furrowed in worry. I felt the tremors of fear surging through me like shockwaves, but amidst the panic, I noticed Evan stepping closer, his expression focused, decisive. "I can help," he announced, swallowing his own anxiety. As he turned to walk toward the door, an impulsive decision struck me. I couldn't let him face the chaos alone. "Wait. I want to help too," I called out, surprisingly sure of myself. The words felt foreign yet liberating. I stood, driven not just by fear for my daughter's well-being but an undeniable urge to break free from my mundane, suffocating life. Evan paused, his eyes meeting mine, a flicker of surprise and something deeper igniting there. "Are you sure?" he asked, concern etched in his features. The weight of the storm outside pressed against us, thickening the air with unspoken challenges. It was a question that lingered between us, ripe with possibilities. "I'm sure," I insisted, feeling a sense of resolve wash over me. In that heartbeat, I recognized that life was about facing storms together no matter how fierce they may be. Making this choice could mean stepping into an unknown world, fraught with its own dangers and unrest, but standing together against the chaos felt like a risk worth taking. That we stepped toward the door, hearts pulsing with the unpredictable rhythm of hope and fear. The storm now not just a backdrop, but an adventure waiting to unfold just beyond the threshold. As we pushed through the door, the rush of wind hit us like a wave, swirling around our necks. A breath before plunging into uncharted waters. Unbeknownst to us, life would soon present a revelation that could shatter our newfound resolve, and the storm was not done with us yet. As I stepped outside, the overwhelming wind whipped around us, pulling at my jacket and tugging at the woven fabric that felt insufficient against the storm's wrath. I glimpsed my daughter for a fleeting moment, her wide eyes filled with both awe and trepidation, and in that instant, I understood that this moment served more than mere courage. It was a transformation, a reckoning. Could I, indeed, be a hero for her in ways I never thought possible? Evan stood beside me as we approached the fallen tree, its gnarled roots protruding like broken promises from the earth. The hefty trunk lay sprawled across the street, its weight a reminder of how capricious life could be. From behind, a cacophony of voices began to swell, merging with the sullen roar of the continuing rain. Stranded drivers, people with umbrellas turned inside out, and onlookers all concerned yet powerless against the environment's brutal grandeur. "I've dealt with worse," Evan said, breaking through my reverie. His determination reverberated beneath his words, wrapping around us like a shield. I wasn't sure if it was the storm inspiring him or our proximity that forged an instant bond, but I felt a spark of bravery igniting within me too. It reminded me that amidst chaos, even the smallest act of courage could create ripples of change. With some hesitation, the two of us moved closer to the fallen tree. "We'll need some help," I suggested, scanning the crowd for any willing hands. Evan nodded, and as if reading my mind, he raised his voice above the gusting winds. "Does anyone have tools?" As we waited for assistance, my heart raced. It was no longer just a storm outside, it felt as if my entire life had turned tempestuous. But I couldn't shed my daughter's innocent gaze from my thoughts. I felt her worry coiling itself around my heart like a vine, squeezing tightly. "Sweetheart, stay very close to me," I murmured, feeling the weight of responsibility intensify as I flashed her a reassuring smile, though I fought to suppress my own apprehension. Moments later, a few determined souls emerged from the crowd, motivated by Evan's call. An elderly man brandished a rusty chainsaw, a brave college student wielded a sturdy shovel, and a middle-aged woman appeared carrying ropes with a steely resolve etched onto her face. It was remarkable how amidst the storm's dread, a community had begun to forge a newfound unity. "Let us form a chain, work together," Evan directed, his voice emanating authority, tinged with urgency. The unexpected leader in him emerged, commanding respect from those gathered. I felt a swell of admiration for the man next to me, and amidst the chaos, our eyes met again. There was an unspoken understanding between us, a silent plea for support that neither of us dared say aloud. As we navigated the messy logistics of clearing the fallen tree, I learned bits and pieces of who Evan really was beyond his stoic CEO persona. He made jokes to lighten the mood, encouraging laughter even when the rain dripped down our faces. Each time he threw me a knowing glance, I felt an unfamiliar warmth blossom within. The walls around my heart started to crumble, small brick by small brick. A precarious but promising construction. Amid our joint efforts, I caught sight of a young girl, perhaps my daughter's age, standing on the sidewalk with an anxious expression, watching our makeshift crew. She clutched a teddy bear tightly to her chest as if seeking comfort from something that had somehow become fragile in the mayhem. My heart twisted painfully at the sight. "Hey," I called out gently, moving toward her. "Are you okay?" The words poured from me like raindrops on thirsty earth. She nodded, though I could see the uncertainty in her small face. My instincts kicked in. "Would you like to help us? We're making sure everyone can get home safe." The girl glanced between me and the team of strangers, and I saw Evan smiling at her encouragingly from a distance. Her eyes brightened. "I want to help," she declared, a note of defiance seeping into her voice, yet a hint of fear remained. "Then let us do it together." I smiled back, welcoming her into our makeshift circle. With Evan's leadership and this little girl's spirit, hope blossomed amidst the chaos, weaving us all closer together, united by courage and kindness. As our combined efforts began to take form, we successfully propped up the displaced tree, safety and laughter punctuating our labor. Finally, I took a breath to calm my racing heart, suddenly realizing how magical it could feel to be part of something greater, however small. But just as we began celebrating our makeshift success, an abrupt crack echoed from above a branch, brittle from the storm's assault, detached from the tree and came crashing down. The moment stretched time holding its breath before it struck, colliding with the ground just a few feet away from us. Gasps washed over the crowd. Adrenaline coursed through my veins, and panic surged as I turned to search for my daughter. My heart plummeted as I spotted her, standing frozen, her tiny frame caught in shock. Just as I reached for her, Evan's hand shot out, snatching her to his side protectively. "We need to move," he shouted, urgency cloaking his tone. The chaos had turned perilous again, the storm revealing its unforgiving edge once more. I grabbed my daughter tightly, my heart thrumming frantically, but the sense of connection drawn from Evan's fierce protection ignited the last flicker of hope, fighting against my unraveling fear. There was no turning back now. This storm had become our catalyst, the very thing that bound us together, drawing us down an unexpected path. As we retreated away from the fallen branches, I felt a sudden surge of something deeper than fear or urgency, a bond forming between us that felt both thrilling and terrifying. In the eye of the storm, I had discovered uncharted territories of compassion and connection, yet with this new bond came vulnerability. With each step away from danger, I realized that not only had I let someone else influence my life, but I had begun to be shaped by the complexities of emotions that tore at me from within, and in that moment, as I held my daughter tightly and exchanged a fleeting glance with Evan, a chilling yet tantalizing revelation struck me. I never imagined that a storm would lead to an unexpected bond between a single mother and a CEO. But if this storm could expose such vulnerabilities, perhaps the tempest beneath the surface remained still to be revealed, and with it, the possibility of both surreal joy and heart-wrenching pain that lay ahead. With the storm still raging, we retreated to the shelter of an empaneled storefront that had been boarded up for years. The glass window reflected the tumultuous weather outside, warping the world into a kaleidoscope of fear and uncertainty. My daughter clung to my side, her small fingers clasping my jacket tightly, and I could feel her heartbeat racing in sync with the chaos that encircled us. Evan stood a foot away from us, his brow furrowed in concentration as he assessed the situation, a calming presence against the howling winds. But beneath his composed exterior, I could sense his inner turmoil mirroring my own. In this shared moment of uncertainty, the layers we wore began to peel away like the sodden leaves scattered across the damp pavement. "Are you both all right?" he asked, his voice firm yet gentle, grounding the moment with sincerity. "Yes," I managed, stealing a glance at my daughter. "We're all right, just shaken." I could hardly focus on my own feelings amidst the haze of adrenaline and fear. What did it mean to feel shaken? I wanted to assure her that everything would be fine, but a part of me was still grappling with this realization: how easy it was for vulnerability to emerge in the face of calamity. Evan's gaze lingered on my daughter for a moment longer before he turned his attention back outside, scanning the assembled crowd, now fidgeting and murmuring nervously under the relentless downpour. "We all need to take shelter," he shouted, struggling to make himself heard over the wind. "Wait until it calms down." Though I nodded, a pang of unease lurked within me. The storm had cut off our usual routines, rendered us powerless against its destructive force. And still, I could not shake the feeling of interconnectedness that was pushing at the edges of my heart, a desire to explore this sudden bond with Evan further. A moment later, the elderly man with the rusty chainsaw approached, shaking droplets of water from his coat. "We need to get to safety and find help for anyone still caught out there," he panted, the fear in his eyes clear as the poise of a leader began to surface. "We can't just stand idly." Evan nodded, turning to rally the remaining group, but something deeper stirred within him now. "The best way to go about it is if we all stick together. Safety in numbers." His voice resonated with sincerity, and I felt an odd sense of comfort knowing he was inching closer to what it felt like to be human. As we began to regroup and gather a few of the remaining neighbors, an awkward tension hung in the air. Hope simmered, small yet fierce, as we began to organize ourselves like a makeshift team. I caught Evan's eye again, and this time, I offered a small, tentative smile. "You're good at this," I said softly. He chuckled, the sound wrapping around me warmly in contrast to the unforgiving storm. "I've led more meetings than I care to admit, but this is different. I'm just trying to keep everyone safe." I thought I detected an underlying vulnerability in his words, a flicker of human uncertainty that unwrapped my own trepidations. As we strategized our next moves, I couldn't help but admire the assortment of strangers standing as one. Every person seemed to be struggling with their own fears while drawing strength from one another. The weather imposed harsh conditions on a group of people tethered by crisis. Their facial expressions shifted from fear to determination, from uncertainty to resilience. In a strange bond, we were all weathering a storm together, even if it was much more than just the weather. We were facing the tempest of our lives. Suddenly, an unexpected flash of kindness emerged from the college student wielding the shovel. "I have some granola bars in my backpack if anyone's hungry." Her voice rang through the group, a small gesture of human goodness amidst the flood of fear. The simple nourishment felt like a lifeline, an anchor amidst an ocean of chaos. My daughter's eyes gleamed with appreciation as she clutched the offered snack, the act of sharing igniting something deeper within her, a sense of community. Even in this peculiar disaster. "Thank you," she exclaimed, her voice jubilant. However, as her joyous laughter punctured the mounting tension, a distant rumble rolled through the sky, a menacing reminder that this storm was not done with us yet. My stomach sank, and as if on cue, the wind howled louder, drowning out the small moments of hope. "It's only getting stronger out there," Evan warned, his earlier confidence dwindling, replaced by a glimmer of dread that flickered against his determined spirit. "We need to figure out where everyone can go." At that moment, I caught sight of the girl with the teddy bear, emerging from the crowd with wide eyes. She approached Evan, beseeching him quietly. "Are we going to be okay? Will my mom come for me?" The innocence of her words cut through me, drawing tears to my eyes. I saw in her fear a reflection of my daughter's anxieties, and my heart ached for the little girl. Evan knelt down to her level. "Absolutely, we're all going to work together to get home safe. You're courageous, you helped us, didn't you?" Yet, I could see doubt creeping into his own expression, a perilous crack in which uncertainty seeped through. The moment hung heavy in the air, the unspoken realities of the world outside threatening to extinguish the small flickers of hope we had created. My heart raced. The storm felt increasingly less like a physical battle against the elements but more like a clashing of the very emotions I had fought to suppress all my life. What does it mean to be vulnerable, to reach out, and to forge connections in times of distress? As Evan stood and regrouped with the others, urging us to move as safely as we could, I felt an ache in my chest. No matter how tightly I clung to hope, I realized that this connection, this growing bond could be as tempestuous as the storm outside. With uncertainty echoing through every fiber of my being, I took one last glance at my daughter, at Evan, and the girl clutching her teddy. I could not shake the feeling that something must give, and in that possibility, both joy and heartache awaited, looming at the fringe of this ongoing storm. And as we began to move together, the shadows of what the storm still had in store cast ominous clouds over our intertwined destinies, leaving us at the precipice of unforeseen revelations. The air crackled with tension as we stepped hesitantly into the street, rain pounding down like an urgent drumbeat. Visibility was low, the world around us had transformed into a blurred watercolor painting. Evan led the way, his silhouette an anchor against the backdrop of chaos, while I held my daughter's hand with a firm grip, hoping to impart strength even as my own resolve began to waver. The wind howled, a daunting sound that seemed intent on snatching us up and flinging us into the unknown. I could sense the anxiety rippling through the group, each face lit intermittently by flashes of lightning. The elderly man with the chainsaw trudged beside Evan, mumbling about finding a safer place to regroup. The old community center might be intact, he shouted over the tumult. It's not far from here. As we trudged forward, my daughter squeezed my side, her breath hitching in a way that mirrored my own rising trepidation. Mom, what if we don't find anywhere safe? She whispered, her voice trembling slightly. I knelt down, bringing my face level with hers, trying to project calmness that I didn't feel. We just have to keep moving, honey. We're together, and that's what matters. It was a mantra I clung to despite the uncertainty that swirled inside me, a blend of fear for her safety and the burgeoning softness of my connection to Evan. He glanced back at us, his brow creased with concern. "Stay close, okay?" There was something about the way he spoke, protective and genuine, that left an imprint on my heart. For a fleeting moment, I considered the fact that we were forging this bond, a link born not from choice but necessity. With each step, the weight of vulnerability settled deeper. We weren't merely battling the elements, we were grappling with the storms within ourselves. There were unspoken stories etched into the faces around me, people burdened by loss, isolation, and longing. I was suddenly struck by the thought that, amid this swirling tempest of agony, perhaps we'd each come to find something broken within us that mirrored the world outside. The steady rhythm of my daughter's heartbeat began to sync with the thunderous roars of the sky. In defiance of that noise, I lifted my gaze to the glimmering streetlights struggling against the darkness, each flicker resonating with fragile courage. It encouraged me, it reminded me that life, akin to these beleaguered bulbs, could still shine amidst adversity. We took a left turn into a narrow alley, trenches of murky water pooling at our feet. Evan glanced back again, and in that shared moment, a sliver of hope sparked between us. Maybe we could emerge from this, battered but not broken. Yet, as if the universe sensed our burgeoning connection, the wind picked up ferociously, catching Evan and me off guard. The ground felt unstable as debris from a nearby structure creaked ominously and suddenly crashed to the ground mere feet away from us. "Everyone, move back. Get to cover." Evan's voice cut above the wild chaos, a primal command echoing with authority. We scrambled back, hearts racing, taking small refuge against the wall of the alley between an old dumpster and a crumbling brick wall. The space felt confined and claustrophobic, but I held my daughter close, whispering reassurances that felt hollow even as I said them. The storm raged on outside, but as the noise faded a little in this protected corner, I caught sight of a flicker. Evan was checking in on everyone, his brows furrowed with concern as he assessed our makeshift group. The shadows danced on his face, creating intense lines of worry yet revealing a gentleness I hadn't noticed before. "It's okay to be scared," he said softly, as though he were speaking just to me in acknowledgement of our shared uncertainty. There was a moment when I felt something deeper provoke the air around us, an electricity laden with possibility, but before I could respond, the sound of a loud crash echoed nearby, breaking the moment. My heart dropped as the ground trembled beneath us, and another section of the building caved in, sending debris flying in every direction. People screamed, and panic broke loose. "Head for the next alley," Evan shouted, his voice rallying authority amid the chaos. But the urgency of the storm burgeoned in response, and I saw despair creeping into faces once again. In that fractal moment of fear and confusion, I turned to my daughter, crouched between the confinement of my arms. "We're going to be okay. Just stay close," I steadied my voice, but doubt gnawed at me. As we began inching forward, threading between rushing bodies, a chilling realization struck me. The thunder rolled in tandem with an inner voice, the nagging fear that this bond we were forming could be shattered at any moment, as fragile as the world we'd known just hours before. Evan took my hand in a protective gesture, a warmth reaching through the frigid dread. Our eyes met once more, and 1,000 silent promises shifted between us. But as we made our way forward, a sudden silhouette shifted in the periphery. I froze upon recognizing the familiar face of the college student, now swept away by the current of frantic strangers drifting apart into despair. "Wait!" I called, yet the chaos swallowed my words. A gust of wind battered against us, and for a brief heartbeat, I thought I caught a glimpse of the girl with the teddy bear being pushed further away. There was a moment of hesitance before I realized the truth: we couldn't lose anyone else. My heart pounded, the need to protect echoing loudly. Should I chase after? The storm swirling around us felt like a dark omen, overshadowing the fragile connections we had begun to form. Just as the shadows threatened to consume the light, I felt a twisted surge of resolve. No matter what, I couldn't turn my back on the bond that tethered us, not now. And as I prepared to push through the mass of bodies, a sudden cracking sound sent a jolt of fear through me. A wooden beam above us splintered and fell. In that striking moment of horror, I lost sight of Evan's hand. The ground shook beneath us, sending vibrations ricocheting through my body, a visceral reminder of the chaos that swirled all around. Time slowed as I instinctively reached for my daughter, pulling her close as a cloud of dust and debris cascaded down from the overhead structure. Instinct pushed me to shield her with my body, and I could feel her heart racing against mine, each thud a frantic plea for safety. "Mom!" she cried, her small voice quivering with unmasked fear. "Hold on, sweetheart," I managed to whisper, but my own voice trembled with uncertainty. I turned, scanning the chaotic scene unfolding before us, desperately seeking Evan, praying he hadn't been caught in the disaster. My heart sank when I didn't see him immediately among the panicked crowd. It felt like a cruel twist of fate. After finding a glimmer of hope in our moments together, he might be lost in this storm. Fear coiled tightly in my chest, constricting my breath. "Evan!" I called weakly, the word swallowed by the cacophony of people screaming, the rain hammering down, and the crackling thunder above us. "Over here." A voice broke through the din, and relief surged through me as I saw Evan emerge from the chaos, his figure illuminated briefly by another flash of lightning. He hurried in our direction, his expression a mix of determination and concern, but in the shifting mass of terrified bodies, a girl suddenly stumbled forward, her teddy bear slipping from her grasp and skittering across the wet ground. I recognized her, the college student I had seen just moments before. Her blue eyes were wide with panic as she struggled to regain her footing. In that instant, another crash echoed behind us, and my mind raced. We had to act fast. I pushed past the throng of people, squeezing my daughter's hand tightly. "Stay close, love. I need to help her." My daughter nodded, her face a canvas of worry as she complied, trusting me to guide her safely. We reached the girl just as she cried out for her bear. I saw the desperation in her eyes, a haunting reflection of the chaotic fear consuming us all. Without thinking, I dropped to one knee, grabbing the teddy bear and clutching it to my chest. "Here. I've got it," I shouted, extending my hand toward her, but the sights of panic held her in place. "Go back!" Evan yelled, his voice slicing through the tumult as he fought his way toward us. "We have to get to safety." "No. She needs help." My voice was louder than I'd intended, rising above the clatter of the storm and the cries that echoed around us. With only a heartbeat of hesitation, he turned to me, a fierce protectiveness in his gaze mingling with something softer and unmistakable admiration for my resolute choice. "Okay. Let us get her out of here together." We crouched low, forming a triangular unit of safety around the girl. I could see determination blossom in Evan's eyes as he took hold of my daughter's other hand, an unspoken pact tethering us together against the storm. The storm may have raged, but strength grew within our small herd. As we navigated away from the fray, the frightened girl finally reached out, trembling fingers wrapping around her bear as a semblance of solace. "Thank you," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper, but her eyes sparkled with raw gratitude. In this fractured world, amidst chaos and fear, a simple act of kindness sparked a moment of hope. Evan gently urged us forward, leading us into an adjacent alley that seemed somewhat protected from the violent winds. The rain continued to pour, but the cries surrounding us dimmed, forming pockets of silence where hope flickered faintly. I could feel the weight of the storm pressing down on my chest, but it was countered by the small victories: the rescued girl, the safety, and the connection blooming between us. "It's okay now," I assured her. "You're safe. We'll all get through this." She glanced up at me, the lines of worry on her young face softening for just a moment. We huddled together against a narrow wall, taking turns directing our collective energy at keeping one another calm. Evan stood close, his presence a stronghold I leaned against, and I noticed how the tension between us surged with an almost electrifying intensity. It was all so raw and real, uncovering layers within me that had lain dormant for years, but as we took a breath, the ground shifted suddenly again. The fear's persistent grip over us didn't ease. In that precarious moment, the world around us shifted once more. The distant sounds that filled the air grew muted, and I swore I heard words filtering through the chaos, words that sent a jolt of dread through me as I turned, my heart leaping into my throat. "Let her go!" A shout sliced through the rain, sharp and potent, cutting through the faint glimmer of reprieve we just found. My eyes caught the shadowy figure of a man, who emerged from the swirling rain with a brow marred by fury. He pointed directly at me, rage emanating from his posture as he pushed through the crowd toward our small alcove. It was a face I recognized now, one that I had thought lost along with so many memories from my life before this chaos began, a haunting specter before the storm. Panic surged anew, an electric bolt of dread that shattered our fragile moment. A dread I couldn't shake. Whatever bond had been forming could be shattered now, not just by the wild storm outside but by the darkness that sought to penetrate our newfound unity. Uncertainty wrapped cold fingers around my heart, choking any semblance of hope that had flickered before. We were not just battling the storm anymore, something much darker had emerged from the shadows and it was hunting for me. The rain hammered down harder, each drop a relentless reminder of the turmoil that had engulfed our lives. As I faced the figure rushing toward us, time felt distorted, the seconds stretching into an agonizing eternity. The woman I had become, the mother fiercely protecting her child, collided with the memories of a life I thought I had buried forever. "Let her go!" The man's voice thundered again, laced with authority and anger. My skin crawled as recognition sunk deeper, the storm swirling around us offering no solace. It was David, my estranged brother. How had he found me? Fleeting moments of childhood memories rushed through my mind like flashbacks, brother and sister, playing in the sun, laughter ringing through halls filled with warmth. But then, just as swiftly, they were swallowed by the reality of the man who had turned his back on our family, a resentment festering between us that had been stoked by loss and betrayal. "Why are you here?" I managed to breathe, my voice thin yet charged with disbelief and an undercurrent of fear. My heart raced not just for my daughter, but for what this confrontation might unleash. "Why?" "To save you." His words cut, sharp with a betrayal of their own. "You think hiding will protect you? You think this is a game?" The girl beside me clutched her teddy bear tighter, sensing the tension that radiated off me in waves. Evan stepped forward instinctively, positioning himself slightly in front of my daughter and me. There was something brewing in the air, visceral and raw. No longer just the storm, this confrontation promised a tempest of emotions. "This is not the time, David," I said, grounding my feet to the wet pavement, my resolve hardening. "Whatever you think you know, you're wrong. I'm not hiding. I'm surviving." "Surviving?" He shot back, incredulity underscoring his disbelief. "You think cowering in this alley will save you? I've been searching for you. We need to talk about Mom, about everything. You can't run from your past." "I'm not running." I spat, my voice tempered with years of suppressed anguish and resolve. "You don't get to dictate my life, especially not now." I glanced at Evan, remembering the fragile connection we'd started to weave, a life I was desperate to protect. A shadow passed over David's face, and for a brief moment, I saw something shift, perhaps guilt, or regret. It vanished quickly, lost in the chaos that surrounded us. "You've put your daughter in danger by avoiding the truth." He yelled again, managing to slice through the noise of the storm. "You're dragging her into your mess." "Look!" Evan interjected, his voice rising with authority, surprising me in its confidence. "This is not the time to settle grievances. We have to focus on keeping her safe." He gestured wildly toward the ongoing maelstrom outside, where shadows of chaos danced in the downpour. Frustration surged within me, a relentless tide. "It's not just about me. It's her life at stake. Both of you." I pointed between the two men, Evan and David, each representing a different specter of my life I was trying so hard to navigate. But the tension remained as a heavy fog, thickening the air until it felt suffocating. I could see Evan's determination flicker, worry etched on his face. All at once, I understood the imminence of our precarious balance. Caring for my daughter, hoping to build something with Evan, and now confronting the past embodied in my brother threatened to unravel everything. As I turned back to David, my throat tightened, the words caught in my chest. I don't want to go back. I can't. Not to that life, not now. You need to. He shouted again, the desperation rising in his voice, almost breaking through the fortress he had built around his heart. Don't you see? You're in danger, and if I can't convince you, I can at least keep her safe. That word hung in the air between us, danger. My mind raced, the pieces of a puzzle I had carefully tucked away now threatening to spill over. I knew there were things David had learned, secrets buried deep within familial bonds that tied us together as well as tore us apart. I won't let fear dictate my choices, I replied deliberately, feeling the gravity of my words as they settled between us, but just as the space around us crackled with tension, a violent crack of thunder resounded through the alley, shaking my already frazzled nerves. The distant chaos grew nearer, and my heart sputtered at the impending sense of dread. Suddenly, shadows began to close in around us, figures moving through the haze of the storm, their intentions unclear but their determination evident. Evan turned sharply, scanning the darkening street. We have to go. Now. The urgency in his voice sliced through the fog of emotions clouding my mind. Before I could react, I felt David's hand wrap around my wrist, his grip firm and unyielding. I'm not letting you do this alone. He declared, a fierce protectiveness surging forward, as though the brother I used to know was fighting to break free from the man who had replaced him. The storm raged on, its chaos spiraling, but within that pressure cooker of emotions, a harrowing decision hung in the balance. Did I trust him? Could I accept his help, despite the years of hurt that separated us? And as the figures drew closer, surrounding our little sanctuary, engulfing us in the shadows, I knew that this moment would redefine everything. The storm outside raged fiercely, but the storm within me was far more tumultuous. All I could do was hold my breath and brace for the unknown. The tension of the moment spiraled into a reality that hovered on the brink of eruption. David's grip was both a lifeline and a chain. His presence conjured memories I wished to be rid of, yet there was something about his determination that felt oddly comforting among the chaos. I glanced at Evan, who stood still, grounding himself against the surging tide of emotions. Nobody's going to hurt her, I said, my voice wavering yet firm as I pulled away from David's grasp. You've been absent for far too long, David. I can't let you wade back in just because you think you can save the day. Maybe you can't see it, David argued. But I'm trying to save you and your daughter from the shadows that linger. We'll get through this together. He looked me straight in the eye, a flicker of anguish buried under the surface. That's the problem, isn't it? I hissed, anger bubbling to the surface. Together? You haven't been there, neither of you. I had to carve my own path in this darkness. And now you want to throw it all away? What else do you want me to say? David shot back, frustration spilling over. I was wrong. I can't undo my past mistakes, but I can help you. Just let me. His voice broke under the weight of his conviction, drawing me past the anger into something I dared not confront. Evan stepped forward, his gaze sharp yet compassionate. We need to move. I know this is overwhelming, but if there's a chance for safety. But before he could finish his thought, the figures in the storm emerged with startling clarity. They moved with purpose, eyes gleaming in the dark. I recognized them instantly, dread seeping into my chest like the cold rain soaking my clothes. Shadows cast by memory sent tremors through my body. My heart raced as I whispered, it's them. The ones I've been hiding from. Who? Evan's brow furrowed, and I caught sight of recognition in David's eyes, a dawning horror that echoed my own. The people who don't want me to exist in this new life. My voice trembled as reality crashed into me. They've found me. A sharp inhale from Evan drew my attention back to the pressing danger. Look, we need a plan. We can't stay here. David, I turned to face him. You have to promise me no matter what happens, you need to keep her safe. I glanced down at my daughter, clinging to her teddy bear, eyes wide with unshed tears. She was the reason I had fought so hard to rise from the ashes of a life riddled with pain. I swear, he replied, his voice steady but raw with emotion. In that moment, something flickered between us, a fragile bridge built on the foundations of shared history and unresolved grief. Evan pivoted toward the direction of the approaching figures. This way. He motioned for us to follow him into the whirling storm, offering a beacon of hope amidst the turmoil. But as we took a step, the shadows lunged forward, cutting us off. Not so fast. A voice boomed from the darkness. An imposing figure emerged, a man whose very presence exuded a sinister power, his eyes locked on me with a mix of anger and contempt. You thought you could run away? You thought we'd forgotten you? I'm not afraid of you, I stated, surprising myself with the conviction in my voice. In the chaos, I instinctively pulled my daughter closer, shielding her with my body. The safety of her innocence sparked a flame within me, igniting a fierce resolve. The man laughed, a low, menacing sound that drowned in the rain. You should be. We need to go now. Evan urged, grabbing my arm to pull me toward a narrow passage unseen by the dark figures. Run. With a jolt, I took a step, but David hesitated, a fierce debate swirling in his eyes. He turned back to me, a silent question hanging in the air. The brother I feared had become a stranger, yet here he stood, a potential ally amidst chaos. Trust me, he said softly, and in that moment, a flicker of the bond we had once shared sparked into something unexpected, a fleeting connection born from the shared trauma that had once shattered everything. Let us go. I shouted as we bolted toward the passage, the shadows lunging after us like hungry wolves. The rain battered down, a deluge washing away the remnants of my past life, while the storm within me threatened to erupt. As we ducked into the dimly lit alley, I felt that fragile thread connecting us tautening, binding us in the face of dangers that loomed not only outside but within our tangled relationship. We were no longer just a mother with a child and a brother lost to time. We were three souls bound by remnants of a storm that could either break us apart or forge an unbreakable alliance. Yet even as we dashed through the shadows, the heavy weight of unspoken truths loomed large. What lay ahead was an uncertain pathway forged in fear, guilt, and fragile hope. Suddenly, the shadows intensified, and just as the possibility of escape emerged, I heard a voice, the unmistakable voice of someone I never wanted to hear again. Mina, it called through the chaos, infused with both warmth and threat. My heart raced as I spun around, hope mingling with an unmistakable dread. In that fleeting moment, the reality of what awaited us flashed before my eyes, and I understood that the storm had only begun to rage. The narrow passage exhaled a chill as I stumbled deeper into the darkness, the shadows clutching at my heels. Evan pulled my hand, urging me forward, his eyes darting back toward the figures that whispered threats from behind. David lingered at the back, the weight of his presence a constant reminder of unfinished conversations, regrets, and the painful history we shared. Mina. The voice rang out again, clear and melodic yet laced with danger. It sent a shiver through me, the recognition wrapping around my thoughts like a vice. How could he find me here? Here, in the one place I thought I could breathe free of his grasp. Choosing to ignore him, I pressed on, but my heart ached with a mix of fear and longing, willing myself not to dwell on the memories that his voice stirred inside me. Who is that? Evan whispered urgently, his tone a low hiss that carried both uncertainty and concern. Someone I thought I'd left behind, I murmured, forcing my voice to steady. A pulse of laughter rang out from the darkness behind me, the lower timber resonating through the alley. You'll never escape me, Mina. You know that, he taunted. Keep moving. David barked, his insistent grip on my shoulder reigniting the flicker of trust 1D begun to form. It was peculiar, how much I wanted to believe in his promise amidst a tide of doubt. As we tore through twisting turns of the alley, Evan guided us toward a faded door, a glowing sliver of light visible through the cracks. Here. We can hide, he started, but abruptly halted as more footsteps joined the cacophony of rain and echoes. I halted, heart thudding like a war drum against my ribcage, battling the pouring rain with the thundering anxiety of what might dwell beyond the door. "Mina!" came the voice again, sharper this time, jagged with betrayal. It was the voice of someone who had once promised to stand by my side through the tempest, just before everything fell apart. "You can't hide forever." With trembling hands, I turned the doorknob and stepped inside, the warmth of the room contrasting with the cold fear pressing upon me. It was a storage space littered with abandoned objects, old furniture draped in sheets, forgotten decorations, and dusty memories. "Are we safe?" I asked breathlessly, looking at Evan desperate for reassurance. "For now," he replied, his eyes scanning for threats. David stepped forward to pull the door closed, silence falling around us like a heavy blanket. As the distant sounds of pounding rain echoed against the walls, the gravity of our hidden sanctuary settled into an almost oppressive stillness. With my back against the door, I glanced at David, the sight of his worried expression intermingling with compassion creating a painful knot in my chest. I saw the boy who once looked up to me, who had been lost in his own turmoil, trying desperately to reforge the fragments of our connection. "What now?" I asked, needing to hear direction amidst the suffocating fear. "I think we need to talk about what just happened out there," he said, his voice low and deliberate. "You need to tell us who they are." Evan nodded, his expression sincere but alert. "Your safety is the priority, Mina. We can't let your past catch up to us." "Past? It's right there." I snapped back, gesturing to the door that barricaded the outside world. My heart pounded with the weight of unspoken truths, feeling like I was bearing my soul in a room full of ghosts. "You don't understand what they want from me. It's not just my past, it's everything I've worked to build from the ashes." David stepped closer, the pain in his eyes mirroring my own. "Then let us help you. Please, let us in. You don't have to fight this alone anymore." But the storm swirling in my mind drowned out his voice. I had fought for so long, and for a second, paralysis gripped me as I examined the two men before me, one a reflection of my former life and the other a stranger forged in circumstance. It was terrifying and freeing all at once. Then, breaking the moment of tension, I heard a faint knock at the door, followed by that melodic, threatening voice again. "Mina, let us not make this difficult. You know I'm only a step away. Please don't make me come in there." My stomach twisted. The memories surged like a tidal wave, flooding me with anger and betrayal. But seated in this dimly lit room with the two men, both pieces of my shattered past, I felt a flicker of another emotion, impending determination. "Stay quiet," I whispered. I backed away, moving instinctively toward a heavy piece of furniture. "If they breach our hiding spot, we have to be ready." The two men exchanged glances, but before they could react, the door rattled violently as someone tried to push through. I braced myself to protect my daughter, channeling all the energy I had into that single, potent thought: I am not the woman I once was, and I will not let them take what has become precious to me. The door cracked open just as I shifted, plunging us deeper into shadow, when suddenly it flung wide open. "Mina!" the figure shouted, stepping into the light, bringing with him the heavy scent of familiarity and betrayal. The unmistakable face of my past fell into view, and as I locked eyes with him, I realized the storm was only just beginning, leaving me spinning in a chaotic whirlpool of hope, fear, and an unshakable bond that hinted at both salvation and destruction. The battle within me reached a fever pitch as I stood facing him, the embodiment of my fears, my failures, and yet, the very catalyst of the freedom I had fought so desperately to protect. Michael stepped across the threshold, his presence commanding, yet saturated in layers of memories I had buried deep within. The echoes of a life I had spent years escaping came flooding back, accompanied by an involuntary wave of emotional turbulence. "Mina," he said, his voice a silky thread that felt both welcoming and threatening. With every syllable, I felt the fabric of my resolve tremble. My heart raced, and I instinctively shielded my daughter, moving to position myself between her and the man who had once been a life source, now transformed into a phantom of dread. "Stay away from us!" I shouted, fierceness igniting in my chest as I embraced the fierce maternal instinct surging through me. I didn't want to be the girl he had once known. I was a mother now, a protector, and I would not allow my daughter to be ensnared by the past. Michael took a cautious step closer, hands extended in a gesture meant to calm. Mina, I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to talk. Understanding pierced through my anger, offering a glimmer of hesitation. There was vulnerability in his eyes, but I could not forget how deception had masked his intentions in the past. Talk? After everything? I spat, resentment swimming through me. Our past could drown me in its weight, threaten to suffocate everything I had struggled to build, everything I now held dear, and in that tension-filled space, I caught a glimpse of Evan, tense and poised, an unwavering pillar against this renewed assault from my history. He stepped slightly forward, subtly positioning himself at my side, and I felt an unexpected surge of gratitude for his presence. You don't get to dictate her life, Michael, Evan said, his voice steady with resolve. We're not interested in your versions of events. I felt a warm pulse of solidarity from Evan, an electric connection formed in the shadows of peril. Listen, right now, she needs to be safe, David interjected, stepping in front of me, the implicit brotherly defense igniting both anger and admiration within me. On one hand, the past collided with fragments of familial loyalty, on the other, a stranger stood beside us as if he was willing to risk everything to help reclaim the life I had fought to create. Safe? Michael echoed, sarcasm threading his tone. You think you can hide in the cracks, Mina? I know you better than this. Your life is a facade, and I'm here to remind you of the truth. Stop. I erupted, trembling with rage and fear alike. The storm outside raged in tandem with the tempest building within me. Each word he threw was laden with the weight of shared history, and I realized the true fight wasn't just against the storm outside, but against the monsters that lurked deep within me. Evan's hand brushed against mine, small yet grounding. I could feel the strength radiating off him. No more games, Michael. Your threats hold no power here. With a shift in focus, I saw how the shadows pulled back marginally the words had struck, and more importantly, there was undeniable weight behind them. Standing together with Evan and David at my sides, a fortification began to form, weaving courage into the very fabric of my being. You don't understand what you're asking, how the past has shaped me. I have fought to rise above it. I will not let you pull me back down. I declared, voice steady and unyielding. Michael hesitated, eyes darting between us, uncertainty mixing with arrogance, the very mixture that had so often ensnared my heart. You think you're stronger than your fear, but it's only a matter of time before it pulls you under, he warned, but something began to shift in his expression. There was a flicker, a glimmer of the boy I once knew. I straightened, folding in the warmth of the newfound solidarity between Evan and David. What if you're wrong? I challenged, feeling the raw, unfiltered emotions coalesce into a fierce determination. What if I am stronger? What if this storm has shown me that being vulnerable can come with strength? The storm outside roared like a wild beast, and with each crack of thunder, I felt the fear of my life's tempest begin to break apart, unraveling the old layers of despair. In that cohesive moment of togetherness, I could almost sense the legacy we were forging, a bond deeper than one of obligation or mere circumstance. Let her go. Came a voice from outside, drowning out the storm. She doesn't belong to you. This voice pierced through the clouds of chaos, another figure emerging on the fringes of the storm. I turned to see faces from my past melding with those of the present, people I had craved to stand against, the remnants of my past life, reminding me of battles I never wanted to revisit. Enough! I shouted above the cacophony. My life is not a mess for you to control. You've haunted me long enough. Your power is diminished, you've underestimated my strength. The words fell like lightning strikes, a blinding proclamation fueled by memories stitched with anguish and resilience. The figures recoiled momentarily, the strength in my voice resonating amidst the turmoil. Michael's face reflected confusion, and behind him, something broke the feigned bravado, revealing the raw, naked truth. The choices I made can't be undone, Mina, but you must understand the past always finds a way back. You can't escape forever, but my heart raced. There was power in naming it, in acknowledging it. You can clamor for control, but your grip will not ensnare me again. I breathed deeply, feeling Evan's hand clasp mine firmly, anchoring me, while David's fierce gaze remained constant, guarding what remained of my soul. As my voice rang with fierce determination, the outside world began to shift. Like the storm losing its grip, I sensed the dark shadows scatter into the night. It was as if my acknowledgement had unchained something, invited change instead of fear, and as clarity broke through the weight of lingering shadows, I saw their collective strength fuse together before my eyes. Together, I whispered, drawing strength from every moment I had endured, the love, the pain, the unyielding hope for a brighter future converging into something transformative, a lifeline stretching across lifetimes, building anew. And just then, as if sensing the storm of bygone fears break, the clouds parted, revealing the glimmer of dawn rising on the horizon. The soft golden light spilled into our hidden sanctuary, a warm embrace kissing away the cold remnants of darkness that I turned to Evan and David, the pulse of my heart thrumming wildly. Together, I breathed once more, and the weight of resilience surged through me like adrenaline. In the aftermath of the storm, we were bound not just by shared trauma but by survival, hope, and the unwavering promise of new beginnings, and as dawn broke, a new journey unfolded, uncharted yet thrilling, the final crescendo of our hearts echoing together against the vast canvas of untold possibilities. Hand in hand, we stepped forward from the shadows, weaving together the very fabric of our lives anew, leaving behind the ghosts that had haunted us too long, forever changing the course of our destinies. As the sun kissed the earth, I whispered, "We are the storm, but we will not be broken." And with that, I turned back to them, my heart ready for whatever came next, the promise of resilience and love bending the very edges of our redefined reality, for in choosing to embrace what lay ahead, I had finally broken free.